Today I'll be chatting with Jon and Ray, the directors of Urban Soup, a multidisciplinary, tech-savvy architect studio which is changing the way we think about design. Jon and Ray are the architects responsible for our latest offering on our platform, One on An. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me today. So first off, Urban Soup is such an interesting name. Can you guys give me a bit of a history around that?
Urban Soup was founded about 10 years ago, and the idea about Urban Soup, urban obviously because we're in the built environment and dealing with cities and buildings, and soup because we're from a multidisciplinary background. So it's almost like the ingredients of different disciplines kind of merging and mixed into one offering, and that's how we work with a lot of our projects. We get a lot of input from diverse range of consultants, and it's quite a close-knit team of people who work on our projects.
So just to add to that, I think for us the soup is about the multidisciplinary part, but it's about bringing in the design team right early on. So bringing in the engineers from day one, not kind of doing a design and later on trying to post-rationalize or get the engineer stuff to fit into it. So we work in a way where we, at early design stage, bring in the rest of the team into the soup.
As the architects for One on An, can you give me a brief history of the project? How did it end up on your desk?
So it was a portion of land that was identified by the city. It was land that was put on a public tender offer, and we participated in that. We put a professional team together. We competed in the bid, and part of the bid we had to put the team together, do a conceptual design, prove to the city or decision makers that the product that we're going to be delivering is in their interest and aligned with the city's redevelopment plan and the way they think of redeveloping the city. And that's basically how it got to our office. We not only the architects on it, but we also have a small equity share in it, and that's how we've been developing it. And staying true to kind of good city building principles and providing affordable but quality housing in areas that we require in the city.
I think just to add to what you're saying, what's also critical is that we actually have bought into the project ourselves. So we're not just doing the design work, but we believe so much in the product that we're actually taking equity in the project itself. So we have a vested interest in making sure that this building works from all aspects, which is quite unusual. Most architects would kind of design the building and then just be hands off and say good luck, goodbye. Whereas we're in this for the long haul, and we've got we've got units that we've invested in personally into the project as well.
That is amazing. Hey, I mean, that's exactly like what's happening with the EasyProperties community. You know what I mean? Like, we are part of the EasyProperties team, but each and every one of us also invest in all our properties. So it's quite exciting to see people who are also vested in the same properties that they're working on, And I mean, subsequent to that, what was the inspiration for the design of One on An, the building itself?
We often and most of the time consider our buildings to be quite sensitive to the surroundings and context. It was very important for us to build onto the existing kind of principles that are working in the area. Sandringham is quite a strong residential community. So the building that we designed plays to the character of the area in terms of residential look and feel, the scale, and creating homes for families. So some key urban principles that it applies in terms of responding to edges, creating safe courtyard, pocket parks within the development, and generally just being a good neighbor in terms of other buildings and adding to the current offering. It's quite a lively and vibey neighborhood, Sandringham, and we didn't want to detract from it. So we had a lot of clues that we could work with. So in terms of how we designed the building and planned it and ultimately articulated it.
Exactly. So to mention the courtyard, it's unusual to have it's becoming more and more common, but in the past it was unusual to have a courtyard-shaped building. And a courtyard-shaped building, what it does, it really creates a kind of a private space internally. It's not just a line of buildings and repeated buildings, it's a kind of a special courtyard space. So I think inspired by the idea of placemaking, that isn't just trying to maximize profit. And of course, something we'll probably get into, but security was a big part of our consideration. There's the CCTV cameras throughout, remote monitoring, and also bringing in some green technology.
That is amazing. And I mean, that segues nicely into my next question. You all have a basic understanding of like what architects do, right? But I think it'll be interesting to know, like, especially with the one-on-one project, please give us a bit of insights into the process, from ideation to testing the feasibility of the project all the way to the closeout.
With one-on-one is slightly different from the more traditional architectural project, as we were partners in the development. So what was very important right up front was the understanding the market and the feasibility in terms of the offering that we're going to be designing for and the market. So we went through quite a rigorous process with our funding partners and also quantity surveyors to understand what the costs are involved, what the ultimate rental or sales market would be, and also wanting to deliver a project that's going to be successful. It's got to be standing there for a number of years, and it's got to be well managed and looked after. So you have to make sure that the money behind it and the finances behind it ticks the boxes. And so the conceptual design, the spatial design, you can create a small space that's very expensive or a large space that's relatively affordable. So I mean, it's just about choosing the right materials, the right orientation of the building to not load it with artificial heating or cooling. So kind of basic principles of design that we try to apply right from the beginning. And then once you've got the bones and the structure of the building right, the kind of skeleton works, then a lot of other things just fall into place and come together.
And I think it's important that once we came up with our concepts and initial layouts, we had to test that against the market. There's no point in putting out a product there and it just doesn't sell. So we did a huge amount of consultation locally on the ground with local agents, getting in other specialists around the table and getting that input to make sure the product that we're delivering is going to ultimately it's going to be successful from a financial perspective, not only from a spatial perspective, but also from a financial perspective. And just to mention that there are, from a spatial side, there are ways to we've got higher than normal ceilings, and higher ceilings always add to the sense of space. So that doesn't really cost us that much more money, but it really gives a sense of a larger unit. So we looked at how do we, with color, with basic kind of spatial modifications, can we create that sense of space and not these kind of pokey boxes which often you see that which are not livable spaces.
Space and dignity, For us, projects are really successful, not only looking great and looking the part, but they also have to stand up financially. And that's a big part of our work, is financial viability on these projects.
Amazing. And I mean, speaking on financial viability, what's your view on investing in wealth generation through investing in property?
I think there's obviously different markets of investing. The residential, particularly the affordable market, is always going to be an opportunity to invest in that. Like it is a consistent return on investment, residential, especially the more affordable. And it obviously needs to be very well considered in terms of the offering, where it's located, to add to that longevity and that kind of lifeline. Places where people want to be, or proximity to services and facilities. You can design an amazing building out in the middle of nowhere. It's not going to have any financial viability or return in the long run for you. So it's very much for us a balance between designing a good, decent product, but well-located land and close to amenities. So I think there's always opportunity for the residential market in terms of an investment opportunity and return.
For me, like properties is probably one of the best asset classes to invest in, and mostly for me, one reason: leverage. Like there's very few asset classes where you can get so much leverage. For example, taking out a bond, you may only put down 10%, but you can get growth double that. So there aren't that many asset classes that allows that type of leverage, is one. And two, it's bricks and mortar. It's, for me, like a lot of cities, Johannesburg's going through a bit of a housing crisis. There's far more demand than there's supply. So people need roofs over their heads. The demand is so high that it's hard to go wrong. So outside of one and I invest quite heavily in properties. Purely, that's my main investment class. I do have some stocks. My personal main investment class is in properties.
Amazing. And I mean, just adding on to that, mentioning like the demand and supply of property. What sort of property trends are you guys anticipating in South Africa?
I think something that's coming up quite strong. A lot of people are talking about it is in terms of refitting building. I think there's a lot of opportunity in refitting existing stock. Working on brownfields, greenfields are very expensive. Also potentially kind of turning of office space. You see a lot of office space. It's not a new thing, but it might actually go up a gear in terms of refitting office into residential. With the whole COVID pandemic, how people working, a lot of office space is standing vacant, but residential is a huge demand. And a lot of these office spaces are in very well located positions, so it'll make a lot of sense to turn them into residential. So I personally think that that's going to become quite a big trend in the near future, to actually turn that stock around into residential, not just for affordable, but it could be a range. You can imagine the huge opportunity of having mixed residential in a block of an office block, for different income classes. It will create for more lively and vibrant cities. So that could definitely become a trend,
Definitely. Adding to that, I think the other trend that we're seeing is a move towards greener and greener technology. So ultimately trying to get off the grid as much as possible. It's two things. It's green tech and it's security. Those are two things which I think One and definitely incorporates to a large extent. And I think from that point of view, we're a bit ahead of the curve. But it's the off-grid going as green as possible and providing security in the environment that we live in. So those are where we're seeing the developments heading.
Absolutely amazing. And for my final question, what's your guys' favorite buildings and why?
Do you want to go first?
How much time would you have? So I'll start with Johannesburg. So one of my favorite buildings in Johannesburg, not designed by us, I won't choose our own building. So, but it's probably the Circuit Gallery is one of my favorites, all-time favorites. It's a building here in Rosebank, kind of an elliptical shaped building with aluminium fins. It's a gallery building, and that whole strip that's come alive. I love it. It's just it's a beautiful shape, but also very functional. If I leave it at that, I could speak for hours.
Yeah. And it's quite difficult for me to single out one building. I would for me, what stands out and what appeals to me is there's a kind of conglomeration of good functioning buildings, and it creates almost like a density of quality space, in terms of building. It's not necessarily for me in terms of standing out as a standalone building. I think it functions more for me on the level of collective, and that's when places are really successful and also beautiful. Buildings are the backdrop to life and engagement. So for me, it's more about kind of the precinct, at that level, which will hold often quite iconic and beautiful buildings. People also get attracted to it. It becomes a market and a landscape. But it's difficult for me to single out any building.
Just on that, I think it's worth mentioning that Jonas actually done a scheme, because we're seeing this One and as the start of a greater master plan.
Yeah.
So the plan is eventually to kind of redesign the entire precinct and upgrade the precinct, with One and being one of the first. So we've got plans ready for the neighbouring site and the site beyond that to create a sustainable precinct. It's not just about my little building, but what makes Rosebank successful, what makes places like Morris Arch, is the precinct, as Jonas says. It's not just about that individual building.
It's a catalyst in a larger framework, because there's sufficient public amenities, public open space. It can carry a higher density. So that's the vision for that precinct in future. So watch the space. There might be others in that particular area coming.
That's absolutely amazing. And on that note, you guys said it yourself, One and is probably going to become quite big. So please go ahead and invest on One and on EasyProperties.